Good evening, supervisors, members of the public, staff. Welcome to the Tuesday, September 9th public meeting of the Board of Supervisors of Lower Paxton Township. This is a workshop meeting. Tonight we will have discussions on several proposals, including a continuation of auditing services from our auditors Zelenkowski and Axelrod, agreement with South Central EMS to continue providing ambulance service. We will have a long discussion probably on our July 4th fireworks continuation, and finally there will be a discussion on representations of the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission. Supervisors are all in their seats, ready to conduct business.
Thank you, Mr. Verneau. Welcome, everybody, to the Lower Paxton Township Board of Supervisors workshop meeting for Tuesday, September 9th, 2025. I'm calling the meeting to order, and please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Supervisor Vecchio.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We did hold a budget workshop meeting at 5:30 today, but we did not conduct an executive session. All right, let's move on to, we do not have public comment. Let's move on to public comment. Are there any members of the public that wish to address the board at this time?
Good evening, supervisors. My name is William Stephen Johnson. I reside at 6705 Conway Road. Do you want me to repeat that? Or you're good? Again, good evening, supervisors. My name is William Stephen Johnson. I reside at 6705 Conway Road, Harrisburg, PA. I'm here tonight to express my growing concern and frustration regarding the ongoing nuisances by the Lower Paxton Township compost site, which borders my backyard. Approximately three weeks ago, Supervisor Alan McCormick contacted me and shared that the township was considering planting vegetation to block the view of construction vehicles operating within the compost area. He also mentioned that water was being sprinkled to help control dust. On that same day, I recorded a significant dust cloud caused by construction vehicles moving around the site. I then asked about the study that was supposed to assess noise, dust, and visual impact and provide recommendations to mitigate these issues. I was taken aback when Supervisor McCormick informed me that the study found no issues related to noise and that they have no plans to close or relocate the site because there's nowhere else to put it that won't impact other residents. I expressed my frustration and pointed out that the company conducting the review never contacted me, nor did they visit my property to take decibel readings while equipment was in operation. He stated that the study relied on the readings provided by the police. At this point, I would like to pause and ask Supervisor McCormick to confirm these statements before I continue.
No, Mr. Johnson, we had a conversation. What I said was that they had taken a water tank truck out there to use to put water down. I did say that there was a draft of the report, but the report wasn't final. And and while certainly vegetation is one of the options being looked at, we're also looking at maybe putting some sort of material or building around the device that's making the greatest amount of noise. But no, I never told you that it was done. I never told you we're not going to do anything. I never said that they were done. So I apologize for any misunderstanding.
So can you tell me what phase they're in? The study? Since it's not completed?
I just, Supervisor, Yeah, I just received a draft of that this week. It's being reviewed right now. I'm reviewing it, and so is our Public Works Director.
Okay.
So the release is imminent. We're just looking over it for any errors or or things that are missing.
Right. Did they find anything related to noise? And I'm just curious why I wasn't contacted. They didn't come to my home and record anything, being a professional company.
Yeah, I can't answer the second part of that. I don't know why they didn't come to talk to you. The remainder of it is still under review. So.
All right. I'll go ahead and continue. Thank you for clarifying. It doesn't change much, but I respectfully request the name of the firm hired to conduct the study, as well as the guidelines they were given. It is difficult for me to believe that any professional company tasked with evaluating noise and other nuisances would fail to take their own measurements or speak with the residents directly affected by the site's operations. I am increasingly distressed by the township's failure to address these issues. I have to leave my home just to preserve my mental well-being due to the constant noise that penetrates my house while I work. While I may not be a professional acoustician or a sound tech, I do hold an FCC license, which gives me a foundational understanding of sound and its impact. Nearly every day, noise levels exceed the township's ordinance. Because the police cannot be present when the tailgates slam or tractor buckets strike dump trucks, it seems the township considers these disturbances non-existent. Yet any qualified expert should know that a dump truck tailgate slamming can produce sound levels between 93 and 115 decibels. Even at a distance of 320 feet, a 100 decibel impact only drops off 70 decibels, still above the township's 65 decibel limit. Backup alarms routinely emit 97 to 112 decibels. Thus, one can clearly deduce that the township's operations exceed their own noise ordinance. I have police reports to back it up. What's more troubling is the assumption that any noise below 65 decibels is acceptable. Constant exposure to sound at or near this threshold, especially in residential areas expected to be quiet, can have serious mental and physical health consequences. Studies have shown chronic exposure to 60 decibels can lead to elevated stress levels, increased cortisol production, sleep disruption, cognitive impairment, including difficulty concentrating, which I suffer daily while I'm trying to do my work, while this noise continuously for hours pounds inside my head. I challenge the board to experience what I live through daily. I wanted to bring in a vacuum cleaner and turn it on and show you a decibel reading of 60 decibels where you sit, and just leave it run throughout the whole meeting and see if it wouldn't disturb you, because this is what I put up with inside my house for hours every day, along with the banging, the backup alarms, and so forth. Excuse me. Now, if you were to have somebody pull up in front of your house and play your favorite rap music, and all you get is the boom, bang, and boom, and it still doesn't exceed 65 decibels, but it's at 60 decibels, I guarantee you the police would haul them out of there. They wouldn't be able to sit there and continue to do that. But that's what's happening at my place. That's what it is. Again, anyway, I just want to move on, because I wrote all this because I want to make sure I get it all off my chest. Additionally, the site continues to violate its hours of operation. I have timestamped videos and photos showing vehicles entering the site before the designated start time. Just today, just before I left here today, 2 large trash trucks entered the site and exited around 5:45. The banging was so loud, my wife said it sounded like a bomb.
Yeah.
okay, when they bang. I went out there and took videos. When they're banging and moving around, the dust clouds are just, you have to get away. I had to go back inside the house. And then they sped out the road. And all along, they leave this little trilling, this alarm, this backup alarm runs continuously while they're unloading, while they drive past my house, and they go up to the park, and they sit there, and it's still going, even though they're done. They leave this trilling alarm, just sound. That was today. I didn't expect to add that, but it just happened before we left. A few days ago, I was awakened at 7:18 by a beeping car horn in the site. I went down, personally got up, went down. The gate was already open. Cars were already entering and dumping. It's supposed to open at 7:30. It's still outside the hours of operation. Excuse me. And then last Friday, a trash truck entered the site at 6 p.m. Again, with the banging, the alarm. They're in there for at least 15 minutes. I contacted the police. The police were not able to get there in time to have a conversation with the driver. However, the police officer contacted me and said, yeah, the gate's still open up here. You know, it's now 7 o'clock, gate's still open. He says, I occasionally come by and find the gate open late, so I close it myself. That was the police officer on this past Friday. Dust clouds are still forming, and the township's mitigation efforts appear minimum at best. In a previous meeting, I stated the township was profiting from the compost site. I was quickly corrected. Therefore, I would like to restate my concern more precisely. There is a clear financial incentive for the township to accept yard waste from other municipalities and allow individuals, including commercial entities, from outside the township to purchase permits to dump at this site. Until the township takes meaningful steps to address the ongoing nuisances affecting residents like myself, I respectfully request that it immediately cease accepting yard waste from other municipalities, commercial outfits, non-residents of Lower Paxton Township. I am deeply concerned that the board is not taking this matter seriously. Despite filing complaints over the years, the site continues to expand. Just the other day, I observed street sweepers exiting the compost site. Another example of increased activity. To date, only one active supervisor has visited my property while the windrow turner was in operation, and one township supervisor, the ex-chair, is no longer here, or no longer the chair, also had visited my property. Anyway, the supervisor that recently delivered it, that same supervisor recently disclosed during a public meeting that she was subjected to illegal surveillance by the departing township manager. I sincerely hope this disturbing allegation is being thoroughly investigated and the chaos that has occurred within this township over the past months come to an end. At this point, I fear my only remaining recourse is at the ballot box.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. You're at 10 minutes. Do you have written remarks that you could submit to our recording secretary? Thank you for that. I know that is what the intent of the RFP that we solicited proposals for the compost facility and how to mitigate some of those issues was intended to resolve. And I think, as Mr. Verneau mentioned, they do have a copy of that report. We will take a look at it and attempt to determine what we can do. And we have heard your concerns, and that's the reason for soliciting proposals.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson, I apologize for getting you upset. I thought I was doing a good thing. I'm empathetic to your issue. I've talked to several members of staff here to try to get it resolved. I too have been out to that compost facility and to your home. I do want to resolve this. When I told you that they moved a water truck out there, I thought that was a positive step. When I told you they were considering several different options to mitigate the noise, I thought that was a positive step. I didn't mean to upset you in any way. It was only my goal to try to help you understand that we are working on it and we're trying to get ahead of it. And for whatever I said or did that made you so angry, I apologize.
No, it's not you that's upsetting me. It's the noise that I live with every day, and thank you for that. Yeah, I would just state that you did come by, but not while they were operating, to actually hear it. And that was a distinction I wanted to make. You did come by, but I wanted you to come by when they're running the windrow turner so you can actually hear what it sounds like inside my house with the windows closed.
I've been there a couple of times where I didn't talk to you either. So again,
Right.
I'm interested in the project. I'm empathetic to your problem, and we're trying to get it resolved.
And in terms of the hours of operation, we did think that we resolved that issue. We had talked to prior management and staff about that, and it was our understanding that we were not operating outside of the posted hours. So we'll follow up as well on that issue. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
My name is Christina Johnson, and I live at 6705 Conway Road. I am here to speak. I did not plan on speaking this evening. My husband says enough for both of us, but I'm the one who gets very angry, and he calms me down. And to see him so upset, and I'm upset, and he's calming me down, because we bought this property back in 1993, before it was a composting site. Before, whenever the township told us it was going to be a golf course. We raised our children there, and, and they've also had asthma that was very, where did this come from? But through the years, it was closed for many years. But today, after all these years, from 1993, and now it's 2025, and still it's unresolved. It just seems to me the township is complicit. They know what was done, and they don't care, and they're just going to continue to pass it off. That's what it appears like to me and to many people in my community. That's why they've given up hope. So I just stand here again today to support my husband, and I just hope that you all do the right thing, because it's just not right.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Robin Lindsay, 6244 Overview Lane. You all know that this has been going on for a long time. Unfortunately, we could never get the 3 votes that we needed to take care of this. You said about the tanker truck being out there. Last fall, I did ask the former manager to go out and put water down. I was told that that's a DEP violation, that if we put water down and the trucks come out onto township roads, he told me that that was a DEP violation. Mr. Vanneau, do you know, is that a DEP violation? Okay.
I'm not aware of that being a
All right. Well, I was told, because I asked to have water put down, and he told me no, that it was a DEP.
Runoff from the site would be a problem. Watering the ground, I'm not certain
That's all that I asked for, was to have where I've been to Mr. Johnson's house quite a few times. Mr. Seeds, who was a supervisor a long time ago, him and I were in Mr. Johnson's bedroom. We heard the noise. I've been there. I've seen the dust. I've heard the clanging, and I've asked that if the dump trucks coming in, why can't they be regulated that they must close the back gates? I don't care if it's Penn Waste, if it's other townships bringing in. The clanging is unbearable, and the dust is just, it's ridiculous. You know, the township's sitting on close to $14 million or more dollars, okay, in the reserves. You know what? Why don't you just take care of this man? It's been going on since, forever and ever and ever. Take care of it. Take the money out of the reserves, the $14 million, and take care of it. What a shame for him and for his neighbors that live back there. They shouldn't have to live like that. I would not live like that. I mean, he's been quiet for a long time. I would have been here early on complaining. But to see the dust around his swimming pool, on all of his furniture, and being in his house and listening to what is happening back there, what a shame. So let's take care of him, you know, because till you do the RFP, till you get through this, get through that, you're talking another year, and it's not fair to them. So think about all the money that the township is hoarding, and try and take care of him.
Ms. Lindsay, would you mind answering a question? How long was the prior board aware of the situation? How long have you been dealing with the issue?
I came on the board in 2014.
Thank you.
So I have been dealing with it, and like I've said, I've been there numerous times, but remember, it's always 3-2, and you could never get the 3 votes that I needed to help this gentleman out.
Thank you, Ms. Lindsay. Mr. Vernot, we have the results of the study that we solicited proposals for right now, correct?
Yes. We're
Okay.
just checking
Just
it.
wanted to clarify.
We're just reviewing it for correctness and things.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Mr. Miller.
William Miller, 4311. I wasn't going to talk about Conway, but the road out, I've known that area forever. I knew when it was a dump. I've been in that thing since I was probably, I don't know how far back it goes, 18 years old for Nick Evanoff. We did talk about solutions before, and the building that was mentioned to house it was an idea. I mentioned that earlier on. The city of Harrisburg does it, and inside that facility there are sprinklers, misters, and it missed it. I don't see why that if we have to deal with this thing, is whatever the recommendations were. I mean, you know, there are roller gates, other gates were talked about. But in the scope of this work, there was the discussion, people still need to walk down Conway to get to the new park, and with the berm and a walkway and then another gate, was all that incorporated into that discussion? So you only have to do it once. You know, what do you want at the end? You need a walkway. People have complained they don't even have a safe passage through that area to walk from one end to the other. It all could be, if you're going to have to, you have to have a place to put your stuff. How you do that, it's the cost of doing business. I think it's going to be expensive. And I'll mention Eric Kistler's name. He and I talk about dirt and the dirt bank a lot, and there are available materials you might get for nothing if people had an idea where to put them. And you can build a higher berm with better vegetation, and it's an engineered solution, though. We talked about it. I always say that word, and that's how it has to be. You know, these are skill sets. We can talk about what we want, but what you want, what you can afford, and what's really going to solve the problem are always different things. And then, and again, the trucks, I mean, they know when to come in, but a roller gate, a fob, no, you know, I mean, that's not expensive. We're spending a fortune on those guys, and, you know, the gate would be easy enough to do. The hours, again, I can't control that. They shouldn't be in there. If they're not supposed to be there, they shouldn't be there. You simply, and you could control that then with the fob gate. They wouldn't be able to get in. Only certain people would have the ability to access it when they needed it for emergency reasons. I'm going to switch back to, I'm going to talk about Wenrick Street for a second. In a generality, I know they want to develop it, it's 700 plus units. And in terms of the township has a great plan, you know, with all the rezoning. We know the densities, A, B, what it's going to be in every different zone. My concern is, with all the traffic issues we're having already, if there are 700 units, and we need the housing, and I'm not saying don't do the project. I'm looking, how are you going to handle the traffic at Wenrick and Linglestown Road, and that's a curve? How are you going to handle it down at Blue Ridge? We'll make a right, we'll go out to the Turkey Hill. Probably one of the worst intersections. There's always an accident top of the hill. It's the top of a hill. How do you do that? Well, we'll go down Blue Eagle and we'll make a right. We'll go down to the Copper Frog. Well, it's a lot of vehicles, a lot of trucks. Well, we'll go back out Blue Ridge. We'll go out to the other end where the guy, and it's his land. He parks his tractor trailers. It's a bad sight line. Well, it'll go back out to the high school, or they're going to go back up to the Tractor Supply corner, which is a tough one. my point is, again, this can be engineered. I mean, we got to go backwards. But how will the kids get to the middle school? They should be, that's close enough to walk. Well, we'll have to get some buses. Well, buses are going to cost the taxpayer money forever. It'll never go away. When you design these sites, again, I'm a municipal planner thinking kind of guy in this deal. That should have been at the forefront. How are we going to get these people down the road to the middle school? You're going to save the taxpayer a fortune. But you want to make this it's part of a community plan, and Linglestown is the community. So how are you going to get the people walking? As you go on Wenrick, you can drive, and I saw them. I was looking on the left and the right. There are concrete curbs that were roughed out probably the same time they did the Devon Manor Pool sidewalk back in the early 60s, when the mandate was you will have curbs and sidewalks. We're not going to take no for an answer. We're taking no prisoners. This is how it's going to be. And that has changed, and I feel it needs to change back. My point, and I'll end with this, my thought was, don't compel the developers to spend $1 billion right now on sidewalks. Simply grade the land. When you move your dirt, do your excavations, it's ready for later. And then you can do your deferral when you figure out where you need to put them. Why should someone spend a lot of money on curb and flat work when we can wait a little bit? We'll get it designed so people can walk and move. We'll look at our intersections, and then we'll make our connections. But I can't see how you're going to have a Linglestown community without having any sidewalks. And again, the remnants of the old curbs, the vestiges of these, are visible as you drive down Wenrick. So, and you got Whisperwood there. I mean, the road's going to have to be widened. It's a big expense. So then who pays for that too? You know, it's the cost of doing business. But I'm going to drive back out to Conway. I mean, I want to really see all of that connect. I'll segue back to that for a second. I want to see that connected so we can use our new park. And the sidewalks were forgiven along Conway where you enter the yard waste facility. Why? There's big swales there. And again, some of this dirt, you're going to have to raise them, fill them in. You don't know what's down there. You got gas, electric, whatever. But people need to walk safely, and there was no provision to walk through the new development, of course, which they could have done, and then they could have used the walkway on the inner side of the compost facility, where I've talked about the berm, and then a walkway, and then your fence to secure it, giving the people a safe walkway the whole length of the park from up at the far curve there. I just think that a little bit more planning would be involved. That's all.
Appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Madam
Yes.
Chairman. Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller,
Yes, sir.
as far as the Wenwick property goes, that project is a significant number of homes,
Yes,
and it's going to be over a relatively long period of time, maybe 10 years.
correct.
But it's more than just roads, it's also schools. And whether or not we have enough schools in the right place, and whether feeder systems, so we're talking about all of those things now. Mr. Miller, you do believe in private property rights, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So the people that own that property, as long as they're within zoning and within the ordinances that the township has, they go through a planning process, and the planning commission hasn't seen all the plans and hasn't approved all the plans, and so we are doing the planning, okay? And there is planning going on now, and there will be more planning. But the point is that it's private property, and they are developing it in accordance with our laws and ordinance and our zoning. So it's not like we can wave a wand. Now, you did say we need the housing, let's have it. But we can't stop them from doing it. You understand that, right? I mean, what we can do is make sure that planning is done appropriately, and those conversations are being had, even if you're not aware of them. We wouldn't necessarily involve all of the public in the very preliminary planning. So I want to assure you that we're aware of many of those things, and we are trying to do our best. Okay.
I want to put the thought out there again as they do these projects that this is at the forefront of our thought, because it's going to, and it'll be their property, but it's going to last forever, and it's going to impact every taxpayer forever. And I think there could be some simple solutions for it just by making a And I know the developers don't want to spend they're developers. You know, they want to make their money on their project. I understand, and I know these people. I mean, it's not that I don't know them, and but I just felt it should be said because a lot of people complain, but they never say anything.
It's very early right now. We are aware of many of the issues you bring up, and we are trying to make sure that they are planned for appropriately. Thank you.
All right. I was going to say one other thing about it, but when I came to the Planning Commission meeting the other night, when you come in here, it's an observation from years in education and sight lines and looks. I'd like to have seen those plans in advance. The constituents can't ask informed questions if they can't see the data. And then it's a new type of development, an NOO, whatever it was. And I'd like to read that new ordinance. I mean, it meets the ordinance, but is that ordinance overall going to meet the needs of all the people in terms of the traffic and the sidewalks and getting kids, back and forth to school without, encumbering the taxpayer with $1 jillion more dollars? And when you're looking at some of the plans, and I had to move over the other night to see, I can't see anything on that screen. I mean, these lights, I don't know why they don't turn off, maybe 2 screens, but everything is small. It's not really clear. And everybody was sitting here kind of looking at it, and it was really hard to make any sense of it. So if we could see it, in a hyperlink, whatever you want to call the blue gizmos, I mean, then we could look at it at home. We could look at it at home and write down our questions and come in and point to wherever, and we could see it easier. I mean, I just think it should be at every topic that's on one of our agendas should be something that a person at home, we had the technology to link to it and visualize it. And then again, the informed questions yield informed decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
It is a new type of development for Lower Paxton Township, but there's very similar development in Lancaster County, been very successful, and it is modeled after that. So we are looking at that as well as other things.
Hi, John Campbell, 710 Wrigley Lane. So just a question. When we conduct projects, whether it be a sewer project or the compost project, do we put within the budgets of those projects contingencies, right, for unintended consequences? We do a project and it affects somebody's private property, right? We should be responsible for rectifying that immediately. So if there aren't contingency in the budget for these projects, there should be. Do we have a reserve fund to deal with these issues? Apparently, there are a lot of them. Yeah, we may have the right intentions of having a sewer line fixed or a compost, but they can affect people's property. There should be, I don't know, again, maybe it's in the budget, maybe it's not. Is there insurance to cover a lot of these costs? Because I suspect that a lot of the inaction has to do with money and funding, right? It's going to cost for us to mitigate and rectify a lot of these problems. If we don't have those plans in place, when we have these projects, we're going to have issues like this. And then we're going to be tripping over ourselves to try to find a solution. I would recommend that if we don't have that in place, because that is just not acceptable, right? For these issues to go on for so long, and for projects that we as a township do, right, for all the right reasons, affect private property in an adverse way, and it cause harm and dissatisfaction to our citizens. We should have contingencies in place to take care of these issues immediately and provide the necessary funding.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Is there any other public comment? Okay. Moving on, are there any board member comments?
The comment that I would like to add to Mr. Johnson, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson's concerns expressed tonight is that they have been dealing with this problem for far too long, for 32 years, and that's enough time. That's all I want on the record. I have talked about this in previous months, so I never mentioned the fact that it had been going on for 32 years. I didn't realize when they had purchased the house, but now that number is on the record, and that is way too long. None of us up here would stand for that, so I will just let it go for right now and come back to it later on.
I want to piggyback on Supervisor Thompson's comments and also comments that were made from the public. When you have private property and you want to do something on your own property and you have the money to do it and it's reasonable and responsible and you want it badly enough, you go do it. The members of the current board, most of the members of the current board, with the exception of Mrs. Thompson, have been on this board for a few months, since January or less, and we've tried to tackle this problem. It's not an inactivity. In order to spend public funds, we must be reasonable and responsible and be fiduciary. We must take care of the public's money. We did an RFP so that we'd find out how to fix it. Now we have it, and we're going to start looking at ways we can remediate it. But it's probably going to take another RFP to do that as well, because we just can't spend money. It depends whether it's services or whether it's a purchase of a product, and I won't get into all the details, but we have rules, and we must follow those rules. And no one gets more exasperated by the delays than I do, because I want to do it yesterday. But we do have rules about how we spend the public funds. Mr. Campbell, you asked several questions. Yes, those are good questions. Yes, we've asked most of those questions. Mrs. Thompson, I would only ask that, this board has been dealing with this issue. Most of us in this board have been dealing with us for months, and yet previous boards had years to deal with it. So while I understand people are very frustrated, I don't want people to be frustrated with the amazing amount of effort that we've put forth in a relatively short period of time. Thank you.
Just a response, Supervisor McCormick. You said that no one is more exasperated with this issue than you are? I want to make sure I understand. Is that what you said?
Exasperated with how long it's taking us to get it fixed, not with the issue. I told Mr. Thompson when I first visited his home several months ago, I understood, he was right, and we created the problem in many ways, the problem of the noise and the dust and those kind of things, and he's righteously due an answer from the township. Yes, I'm exasperated by the delay that is part of the business of government.
All right. I would just have to say that I believe that the residents are more exasperated than any of us sitting up here.
No doubt, I fully agree with that. Thank you.
Is there any other supervisor comments? Okay. We have one action item tonight, and that is the appointment of our township solicitor. Since the end of August, we have been without solicitor services. Our prior solicitor, Babs Callan, has resigned. We sent out a request for proposals for solicitor services, and we received responses from 4 law firms: Johnson Duffy, Salzman Hughes, Tucker Arnsberg, and the CGA law firm. All firms have wonderful and capable attorneys who are experienced in municipal government. I think I'll kick off the discussion here. My 2 top picks would be Salzman Hughes and Tucker Arnsberg, and that is based on their expertise, the rates and the costs that they provided, and their ability to be here on site in the township building. So now I will open it up for discussion among the other supervisors with regard to our solicitor services.
Yeah, I would like to agree with you, Chair. Those were my top 2 candidates as well, or firms.
Madam Chair, we received 4 proposals. One proposal was significantly lower in cost than the other 3. It was so low in cost to appear to be non-serious. I understand that an attorney is an attorney is an attorney, but many people sitting in this room were not pleased with our previous solicitor, and there is at least good reason to believe that not all the advice that she had given us was the best advice for someone who is dealing with the second class, township of the second class. I do believe that in my reading, in my evaluation, in my estimation, that Tucker-Arnsberg was the most comprehensive. It anticipated our needs for the Board of Supervisors meeting, plus having people on site, plus having a great attorney, plus superior backup. If I remember correctly, they have 85 attorneys on staff, many of which have unique and specific municipal experience. I know that in addition to the experience for municipalities, they also have a significant amount of experience, which they've also shared with us for the municipal authority. I think that, the municipal authority is probably going to want to piggyback on this deal that we make. So I don't know what anybody else has to say about these 4 proposals, but I'm willing to make, if you're entertaining motions, I would make a motion that we accept the Tucker-Arnsberg proposal.
Okay, I will ask for other supervisor comments before we entertain motions.
I just want to echo what Supervisor McCormick just said with a little bit more detail. I agree that Tucker and Salzman were the 2 top, in my estimation, for who our next solicitor should be. But when I dug down deeper into the bench that will be provided to the township by the attorneys at either firm, I have to agree that Tucker-Arnsberg provides not only a deeper bench, but a bench of significantly more experience, years-wise, by the year they passed the bar, and the years that they've been practicing, as well as the practice areas that the firm covers. And in looking at the hourly rates, while on paper it might appear that Tucker comes out a little bit more expensive, when you do the math based on the hours per week that they have guaranteed us that they will be in the office, Tucker is actually slightly cheaper than Salzman in the long run. So with all of that, that's where I find myself.
In my research between the 2 firms, Salzman Hughes and Tucker-Arnsberg, I am very uncomfortable with the attorney that they are proposing to bring on site, given what I have been told about the issues that this attorney has been involved in. We do not want to be involved in We don't want to get pulled into any issues with an attorney who has had the type of issues that the person that they would like to bring on site. So I cannot support Tucker-Arnsberg at all. I spoke with the attorney that they are proposing to bring on site from Salzman Hughes, and I asked several different pertinent questions that have been discussed over the last couple of months. The first one was, could you give me a legal written opinion on Scheib v. Orlando so that we can finally get that settled as to how we would be voting, what our vote would look like when a 5-member board sitting as 3 has to vote. He agreed to do that. Additionally, with regards to the issue of the Economic Development Authority, a couple of weeks ago, the issue came up, and our chair said that what would happen is if the Economic Redevelopment Authority was created, my question was, could the new board that will be seated on January 2nd disband that economic authority? The attorney indicated to me that that was possible, but it has to be created. Language has to go into the creation documents. So he promised to provide that information at the meeting for next Tuesday. So I would be in favor of bringing Salzman Hughes on board as our solicitor. And if we don't bring Salzman Hughes on board now as our solicitor, we do have a reorganization meeting on January 2nd. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to ask a question to Supervisor Thompson. Supervisor Thompson, did you ask questions of all 4 respondents, or did you select only Salzman to ask questions of?
Based on the research that I did, I had narrowed it down to Tucker Arnsberg and Salzman Hughes. So once I got the response back from the research questions that I had asked about Tucker Arnsberg, then I just eliminated them and focused on Salzman Hughes because I was getting information from a person that I trust and respect. So I went with talking to Salzman Hughes. You all also had the opportunity to sit in on that phone interview that I did today. So I thought we were going to all do it together in the conference room, but that's not what occurred based on the email that I got from the chair.
Supervisor
Can I just
Thompson,
address that?
I objected to being part of that interview with only one of the correspondents because logic and my former work in RFP with the state of Pennsylvania requires treating all respondents to an issue fairly by, if we're going to interview one, we should interview all 4. There was never any effort made to interview all 4. Therefore, I thought it inappropriate to interview only one and give them an advantage, so to speak.
Well, as I said to the chair, am I really the only one that wants to interview? I thought, we could have made the accommodations. We could have added the other 3. Certainly could have done that. I was not opposed.
For those of you who don't know, in my day job, I practice as an attorney. So I find it very curious that rather than talking with the lead attorney from Salzman Hughes about the proposal that he put forth and the representation that he will give to this township, that questions were posed to him of a legal nature, being that there's no attorney-client relationship that exists yet. I'm not very comfortable with the fact that he may or may not have rendered legal advice or promised legal advice without having a contract with the township. At the same time, I'm not aware, you have not shared your concerns about Tucker Arnsberg, so I cannot say that I'm fully informed as to be able to make a decision based on the information that you do have as to why you're not comfortable with them.
When we talked last week in the executive session, I indicated that I was going to be doing some additional research. I don't feel comfortable saying what I was told about the attorney that would come on site. Now I hear in the public meeting, I certainly wouldn't mind doing that in the executive session. I don't think it's appropriate to bring that out in the public right now, as I'm not in favor of this law firm.
Supervisor Thompson, it would be inappropriate to address this issue in executive session. This is not an item that qualifies as one of the exceptions.
Well, I don't want to share what I was told was going on with this particular attorney right now, because I'm not putting us at risk for litigation. So I'll just leave it right there.
Okay, are there any other supervisor comments? Discussion, questions? Okay, so we have a motion on the floor for Tucker Arnsberg. Do we have a second?
All set.
I'd like to open it up for public comment at this time. Any public comment or questions on the appointment of the solicitor?
Joe Lindsay, 6244 Overview Lane. And my question is just from what I was listening to here, was there ever a joint interview set up to interview the candidates by the members of the board?
There was not. Putting all of the board members together for an interview process would probably be inappropriate. We don't want to deliberate during a time that's not a public meeting. Each of the individual supervisors conducted their own research, had the contact information to reach out to any of these firms to ask questions. Personally, I work with every one of these law firms on a very regular basis, and I'm quite aware of their capabilities as solicitor. So I did not contact them with regard to their respective proposals. But again, I work with them on a weekly and monthly basis, each of these firms.
Okay. It just sitting back here listening to this, it didn't seem like the left hand knew what the right hand was doing, vice versa, and I just wanted to bring it up because I didn't know what was going on either. So it was up to each member of the board to do their own investigation, so to speak, on each of the proposals that came before the board for consideration.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Verno, what's the difference between the interview that we had with the finance director and doing what Mr. Lindsay just said? What is the difference?
I'm sorry, in what context?
Well, Mr. Lindsay just asked us, did we bring in the attorneys that would work on site to interview them? The answer is no. So my question is, what's the difference between bringing the finance director in for the interview that we went through about 2 weeks ago? Because a number of us came to that particular interview for the finance director.
That's a personnel matter.
Yeah, that number one, it's a personnel matter, which would be covered as an exception to public meeting under sunshine law. Number two, there was no deliberation that I remember. You asked questions, she left, and so did the supervisors leave. There wasn't any post-deliberation that would violate sunshine. I'm not sure that would be the same case with the law firms, because you're asking about a proposal, not the contract itself. So I'm not sure that it's covered by an exception to sunshine.
Okay. I just remember that we did the same thing when we hired our previous solicitor. We brought several firms in, and the supervisors got to question that several law firms. We put out the RFP, and then we individually, together, we sat in the executive session room, and we individually questioned those attorneys that were going to be working on site. And after that, we had conversation. So I'm just wondering why we couldn't have done the same thing with the law firms. And I went out, and requested that the chair make arrangements for me to at least have the opportunity to do that with the firm that I had narrowed it down to.
And
because
I
I
did do that.
saw that, and you did, yes. So I had my interview with him this afternoon. I really thought that it was going to be the same way that we had done it with the attorney that we settled on as our solicitor.
So as we know, supervisors can meet together and have information gathering sessions and have discussions to receive information. But getting this entire board together in this time where every action we have been taking over the last few months has been heavily scrutinized, I think that maybe having a conservative position of not getting our board together to deliberate was a prudent one. So with that, I am done defending my actions. We have a motion and a second. Is there any more public comment? Mr. Packer.
Good evening, John Packer, 5723 Kenwood Ave. I sort of get what you're saying, but I'm sitting back here with Mr. Lindsay, and the same thoughts are running through my head. You know, you're making a decision on using an attorney to represent the township, which isn't just you, it's all of us, and you guys didn't talk about it. So
We're talking about it right now.
I
We're
get
discussing
it.
this in
So
an
why-
open meeting.
So why aren't those 4 attorneys sitting in these chairs then right now? If you couldn't talk about it behind closed doors, then they should be sitting here and we should be listening and watching you question them. So that's where I'm at with it. I don't know. I haven't been part of this. Again, yeah, everything's been scrutinized and it's going to continue probably to be that way. And I'm just saying, sitting back there watching, if you all haven't talked to them and your only ability to is here in public forum, well, then maybe you need to step back and not accept this motion and look at possibly doing a little more digging or a little more public interviewing.
Go ahead.
So,
I will, go ahead.
no, it's just, the public may not be aware that each of the firms submitted rather voluminous proposals, so all the information that you would ask them in public is in these proposals. So there's some of the questions that were asked today on the phone call with Saltzman Hughes had to do with contingencies. You know, if you're appointed, would you do this? Well, I'll leave it at that. The information that we need in order to make a decision, the history of the firm, the experience of the individual attorneys, their rates, their paralegal rates, how many hours they're going to give us on site. Those are all in each of their proposals.
So I understand that, but again, none of you were in the same room to ping pong that stuff back and forth off of each other. You just individually made your determinations, which, okay, you know, Madam Chair, you're an attorney, Supervisor Vecchio, you're an attorney, you know, okay, you have some inside knowledge to certain people that Mr. McCormick doesn't have, and if you don't share it with him, then he's not making an informed decision. John's not making an informed decision. That's just sitting out here in the public. That's what it looks like to me. I get what you're saying. All that's in there. It encompassed in what you asked for and what they gave you, but you never talked about it amongst yourselves. I mean, to me, it's common sense.
It's also a violation of the Sunshine Act.
And I would just echo that we're also doing that right now.
I get it, but you don't have the people here that you're telling us about here. If there's there's 4 attorneys that were proposed to be the on-site people, then to me, they should be sitting here so that you can have some sort of back and forth with them. If you haven't sat down and interviewed somebody face to face, if you haven't talked to them, if you all haven't talked to them on the phone, you're not gathering the information, because you can say or do whatever you want in a piece of paper and a resume, you know, but there's nothing like sitting and talking to somebody face to face.
I have sat and talked to each of these attorneys, Mr. Packer. Thank you.
The other thing,
Correct me if
Mr. Packer, is that they gave us a significant amount of information for us to learn about these people. Not only the individuals who'd be representing us, but also the many and various attorneys that were part of their team. If we're not satisfied with this attorney, we can ask for a change. If we don't like the contract, we can cancel it. So none of this is permanent. Different than if you're hiring a W-2 employee who's going to have certain rights and legal. So we understand what we're doing, but we're also sitting here without a solicitor representation, which makes many of us uncomfortable, especially in light of what's going on recently, where everything we do is questioned. So I think it's good for us to have a solicitor, and if we're not satisfied with those services, we can choose another.
I was just going to add that in my prior life with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, going through RFP processes, it is often the case where you receive the packet, you review the packet, and you hire someone without an interview. You can bring them in. You don't have to bring them in. In this situation, I was asked if I thought I needed to bring them in, and I will tell you that the voluminous RFP proposals that they put forth to me, along with my own independent research of their bar records at the Pennsylvania Disciplinary Board, of the years that they passed, I did Google searches, I researched articles that I could find on the internet, and I talked to colleagues of theirs who I know from being in the legal profession. All of that together said to me, I did not need to interview these individuals. I am comfortable with my decision, and I'm comfortable with the research and the work that I put in to make that decision.
One more thing I'd like to add, Mr. Packer. You mentioned I was not an attorney, and I never claimed to be. I don't even play one on television. But I'm uncomfortable making decisions sometimes without being able to go to the solicitor and say, hey, what's right and what's wrong? Because I don't know the law like some of the people, my colleagues on the board. So I feel I need this solicitor. Again, if this is not the right person, we can change it later. But I feel from the research I've done, this is the right one to choose now. Thank you. And I appreciate your questions. They're good questions.
Okay, is there any other public comment?
When the solicitor was hired last November, the manager wheedled it down to 2 people. And we brought them in, and they presented what they could do, what they were capable of doing at separate times. We brought them both in, and that way we could read their body language. We could, tell, do we like this personality of this person? Yes, everything could be on paper, but you are going to be working with them. They are going to be representing the township. You should have, as a board, you should have brought them in. You bring it, if you have to come at 4:30 or 5 o'clock, you bring them in so that you can interview them. You're not deliberating. You can ask them questions. They tell you what they have to offer. I feel, because of all the issues we have had since November, I feel that the board should have interviewed them individually.
Thank you. Ms. Lindsay, any other public comment? Okay, we have a properly made motion and a second. We will take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries. Moving on to the discussion of the proposal submitted by Zelenkowski Axelrod. Manager Vernell.
Thank you. We had asked for a couple of reasons. One because it's under the Government Finance Officers Association's best practices is to bring on, is to have multi-year agreements with your auditor. I do agree it's a good idea to change them every once in a while, but best practices from the Government Finance Officers Association is to keep each one for at least 5 years. When the last RFP went out in 2022, I believe it was, so I think it was for 22, 23, and 24 was the current the current contract. We asked them to provide us with a proposal to extend that for 2 years, just to make it a total of 5 years. One of the benefits, I guess, to this would be a bit of continuity in an otherwise kind of a year in which we're changing finance directors, we're changing finance managers. Keeping the same auditor who has looked at our books for the last 3 years would provide a certain amount of continuity. The proposal, I believe, was in your packet. For the years 2025 and 2026. So what we're asking the board to consider is extending the contract of Zelenkowski and Axelrod for a 2-year period for 25 and 26.
Mr. Verno, has the cost increased from prior year audit contract?
Yeah, there is an escalator. It does go up every year.
Thank you.
The one thing that did not go up was the cost. Lower Paxton does a considerable amount of grant work, and when you exceed a certain dollar amount of federal of money, you need to get what's called a single audit. The cost of the single audit has not gone up. That stays the same at $5,500.
Mr. Verno, are there any questions for Mr. Verno?
I have a question. What else is it that you anticipate that they would do for us in 2025? They presented the audit, so could you speak to that?
Yes, the audit of the 2025 books, which they can't do until the year's over, so.
They just presented
In
the
2026, they'll be auditing 2025.
Okay.
And then in 2027, they'll be auditing 2026.
All right, thank you. So this is just a one-year contract,
Would be 2.
2025 and 2026?
Yes, ma'am, that's right.
Okay, all right.
It would be in 26, 27.
That's when the work would be actually done, right?
Done in 26 and 27. For
Okay.
25 and 26 audit.
The budget, or the audit, I'm sorry, that was just presented to us was for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2024.
2024, all right, thank you.
Okay. All right, we will move on. We're not taking action on this item at this time to the discussion on the renewal of the township's agreement with South Central EMS. Mr. Vernell.
Yes, thank you. You also received a copy of a letter from Jason Campbell, who is the chief and CEO of South Central Emergency Medical Services. They've been providing the township with our EMS services for some time, and again, it's time to renew it. We renew this agreement every year. I did take a look at, I had asked them for some information on the cost of their operations, and the information he provided me from 2024 is this. Their revenues that they actually collected, not the revenues they build, but what they actually collect, because they're like any other medical provider, they sometimes have to settle for an insurance payment, would be about $3.6 million. Their expenditures for the year were $5.2 million. The difference being about $1.6 million. 15% of that, or about $250,000, is made up from contributions from municipalities, from their member municipalities. The remaining 85% is made up with subscriptions, donations, and fund drives. So reason for me asking all this was to see exactly how much of their operation that we're funding with this contribution, and it's really not a lot. It's 15%, and that's not all ours. That's all their members.
Agreed. Thank you, Mr. Vernell. Otherwise, no changes to the contract, and it would be for another 2-year term.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Vernell? We also have Mr. Campbell in the back there in case there are any questions that he can answer at this time. No questions. Okay, we will move on to item number 7, which is the discussion on the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission's request for representative nominations. Mr. Vernell.
Yes, we got a letter from Diana Myers-Krug of the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission. They annually ask for if the municipality has any nominations for representative from the Dauphin Southwest Regional Planning Area. They asked to bring it before the supervisors to see if you have any nominations. We do have a representative currently, Mr. Frank Klebnikow, who's some of you may have met. He's with, I don't remember which firm now, Bratu Associates, I believe. But he is the representative right now for the Southwest District. He has indicated an interest in continuing with that, but we also have the opportunity to nominate other people if we choose.
Okay. Are there any questions for Mr. Vernell? Any nominations we want to consider at this time?
How long has he been our representative? Do you know?
I do not know. It's not included in this letter.
Right, okay. So that's something we can find out.
I could.
Okay.
Any other questions on this item number 7?
Does RITU represent Lower Paxton for any other service?
Not that I've seen. I don't think so. Not that they may haven't made in the past. but okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bruno.
Anything else? Okay, we will move on to the topic that I think everybody wants to speak on, which would be the discussion on continuing with a July 4th fireworks show. Mr. Verneau, would you like to set us up? Or Director Scott, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're going to ask
Please.
Rachel to bring that up. She knows more about it than I do.
Okay. Good evening, Supervisors. I'd like to provide an update and request direction regarding the Independence 2026 Independence Day fireworks. As you know, July 4th marks the 250th anniversary of the United States, which provides both an opportunity and a challenge to the township. In 2024, staff recommended relocating the fireworks due to logistics and the cost concerns. However, the board chose to maintain the traditional location. The 2025 display moved forward under that direction. This past year, costs were primarily absorbed by the township. The fireworks display was approximately $10,260 and was split 50-50. The parks paid $5,130 and Linglestown Fire Company paid $5,130. The police department's staffing was approximately $10,000. That brought the total township cost for 2025 to approximately $15,000. The Linglestown Fire Company, who had previously positioned this event as theirs, has recently withdrawn, leaving the township as the sole responsible party moving forward. For 2026, the firework display fee will increase to $12,500, and police staffing is projected to remain the same at $10,000 or slightly more. We anticipate the total cost will be in the range from $22,500 to $25,000 with no external support currently in place. There have been some questions about grants. The Lower Paxton Foundation has applied for and received grant funding under the America 250 PA that reference these fireworks event. To our knowledge, those dollars are restricted for marketing purposes only and not towards the fireworks costs themselves. Our department would plan to align this event with the 2026 sponsorship guide, which we are finalizing now to provide businesses enough time to plan for their budget for next year. The fireworks could be included as part of that sponsorship strategy. So tonight we are asking for direction if the board would decide if the township should continue hosting the fireworks for 2026 on July 3rd under the current cost structure, which we estimate to be approximately $22,500 to $25,000. With early direction from the board, staff can plan responsibly and deliver a celebration that is community-focused, fiscally responsible, and executed based on what our township facilities can support.
Thank you, Director Scott. Can I ask, what's the deadline to be included in the sponsorship guide? You need some direction.
The deadline, yes, we are planning to finalize that probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Okay. However, the deadline for the fireworks to be a part of this company would be October 15th. Okay. And that would require 50% deposit.
Director Scott, knowing that we have until October 15th to make a commitment to the company that provides the fireworks, has there been any effort made to solicit from the public an opinion as to whether or not an expenditure of $25,000 to conduct this event would be to the public's liking? Maybe because it's 250th anniversary, maybe they'd be more likely to do it this year than maybe some future years. But do we have any feedback from the public at all with regard to whether or not the fireworks should or shouldn't be held?
No, we have not gone out requesting that.
Does anybody think that's important to reach out to the public to find out whether or not we wanted to do it? $25,000 is a significant investment.
Oh.
I'm going to tack on to what you're asking. So you said that it was $10,000 for police staffing. There are other first responders who are at our event is that included in the 10? Is that more than 10? Is that something we don't pay for? Is
I'm
that
going to
something we-
refer to the
I-
director, please.
I kind of had that as the director.
Thank you.
Question, but go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the question. So that does cover all emergency services. Those who actually submitted invoices for their individuals that were deployed to the event, some Bureau Fire personnel, and South Central EMS as well. And I did not include the Dauphin County CRT response. I did not see any outside invoices from them. So it also included in there rental for some fencing, bike rack type fencing, water barriers, and other necessary items that we utilize to keep certain areas restricted. We found that that was successful this year. And moving forward, we have a very similar plan moving forward depending on the venue.
Thank you.
Well, public expenditure of funds is a significant issue that I care very deeply about. I think my primary concern would be public safety. So, Director Kashiba, would you like to provide any comment or feedback at this time on how if we do decide to move forward with the event, how we could keep our residents and guests safe?
So yes, I think we did an outstanding job. The planning through the Police Bureau and all of our partners for this event did an outstanding job. That being said, we had similar conduct this year that we've had in previous years. We responded to that conduct very swiftly, and any crimes that were committed during that, we were able to research, even the ones we couldn't make arrest on that particular night. We were able to research through our criminal investigation division, and they surely did their due diligence there, and we were able to make every arrest possible as a result of that. Now, how does that look moving forward? There continues to be a concern of mine based on some of that conduct at those events. The fact that we're finding firearms on people, that they're setting off commercial grade fireworks within a public venue, within juveniles next to them, and officers being injured in that regard. So the possibility will always exist. And to clone a phrase that I heard many, many years ago, you can never predict random acts of violence. However, we can prepare for them, which I think we've done, and I believe we can respond to them swiftly, but we just really can't answer the fact on whether or not what day will be that bad day. I think we have history that shows that this event is being populated by outside characters that make it very difficult for family groups to attend and be safe and feel safe. As much as you couldn't walk in this event, this past event, you were probably walking 3-4 feet and running into a police officer, and I think that's why we didn't have fights, but we still had other things occurring. So I have concerns. I have concerns every time that we have an event like that, every time we have a large event that, we experienced, we didn't, the city just experienced the vehicle ramming event. We had contingencies for that at this particular venue. We have them set up during Chris Crindle and other venues. So those things are always out there, and it scares me when we put large amounts of people in small spaces. There's always that possibility. So I live in a world where we need to be cognizant of that and be prepared to respond to it. But I don't think it restricts us. It should not restrict us in our freedoms on what we decide as people within a township or an organization. So we're going to be here in law enforcement, emergency services to do that, to handle those responses to those things. But I'm sure, just like anyone else in this room, I have concerns based on previous activity at these events.
Agreed.
I appreciate your response.
Yeah. Do any of the supervisors have questions for Director Scott at this point? And then we can invite the public to provide comment as well. Nothing? Thank you, Director
Thank you.
Scott. Would anybody like to provide feedback at this time? Mr. Lindsay?
Joe Lindsay, 6244 Overview Drive, or Overview Lane, excuse me. First of all, Director Kashiba, you were dead on, and I respect you very, very much. I don't think we ought to look at this issue as a matter of dollars and cents, but look at this issue as a matter of public safety. Fireworks, especially when we recognize the 250th year of this country's celebration, should not be something attended where everybody has to look over their shoulder to make sure they're safe being there. And I'm not being negative about the police department or any other first responders, because we have the best in the county. We have the best in the state, and I mean that sincerely, because I was a policeman back in the 70s and 80s, and we had the best department then, and we have a better department now due to the leadership of Director Kashiba. I would strongly recommend that we don't have it, and I go back to when we had some issues with football games over at Landis Field being played at night. The school board at that time decided when that game with that certain team came up and they were playing at Landis Field, they moved it to an afternoon game. What I'm recommending or asking the board to do is possibly look at using Heroes Grove as the backdrop and do something in mid-afternoon or the late afternoon, because you're going to be in July, so it's not going to get dark till 8:30ish. And the money you would save on that, get a good band, maybe have food trucks in there, or maybe have your Lions Club or your other civic organization set up concession stands if they want to make hot dogs or burgers or anything like that, and have the Parks and Recreation come up with some family things to do at Heroes Grove. It would make it a lot easier for everybody to see who's there and who's moving around, even the police officers. They're great, great guys and gals, but it's better to see who's looking at you when it's daylight out than it is when it's dark. So I'm going to respectfully request that there be another option looked at similar to what I'm asking here, because I think we should have something, especially on the 250th anniversary of this country. But it should not be at the expense of public safety. And it's sad. It's sad that we have to look at it this way, but people just don't get it. They just don't get it. And they take advantage of it every year. And I don't blame just the young children, because they're being dropped off by adults. They're being dropped off and saying, good luck. And what happens is the adults don't know what happens until they get the call from the police department that Johnny or Susie has been arrested. But I would hope that we look at a different option, do something during the daylight, and we can still celebrate the 250th and have a lot of pride and make it safe for our entire community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lindsay.
I just want to say the Lower Paxton Foundation is planning to continue their Independence Day celebration on July 4th that day, which is very family oriented, as you described, Mr. Lindsay.
John Campbell, 710 Wrigley Lane. Just a question. Do we have a sense of the amount of township residents that attended this fireworks versus outside folks? Because if this is for the township residents, then it should be for the township residents. If we have an influx of folks from the outside, then who is it for really? And perhaps we can think about, do we want to collaborate with other townships? If we're getting a lot of folks in from a lot of different townships coming to our fireworks display, maybe we ought to entertain contacting some of this township. Let's do a joint fireworks. That way we would cover a lot of the different townships around, and the cost would be a lot less, for us. And it'll be a collaborative effort. Law enforcement would certainly collaborate with other law enforcement from other townships as well. The cost would be limited, and I think everybody would save a lot of money. But again, I think we ought to absolutely celebrate, the United States and our anniversary.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. We don't have the data, but would Director Kashiba, can you provide any insight on that?
It would be difficult to gather that data. I can tell you based on crowd size that has been dwindling each year, and we can definitely tell from aerial observation points and our drone footage where the families are and where our issues are. There are two distinctly different areas, and those folks in the troubled areas are they're not adults that are causing the issues. As far as the collaboration, we have collaborated with our outside law enforcement partners, especially, and it was interesting, the city's decision to not have fireworks during their food truck event was a direct result of issues that occurred at their particular food truck and fireworks event. So they kind of allowed or had a daylight event with food trucks and allowed City Island and the Senators to be the fireworks display this particular year. And seemed to go a lot better than previous years when there was a combination thereof. So there was discussion moving into this year's fireworks on whether or not we could get everyone who was going to have fireworks displays on the same evening. And as it ended, essentially they canceled theirs because they had planned on doing it on July 3rd, I believe, as well. And there was discussion about the 4th, and we would have probably mirrored that. However, they canceled theirs, which drove, I think, even some additional folks to come our direction. And the best of my knowledge, the only one even close to us, I believe, is Derry Township to hold a fireworks display. So we've done the best we can do with collaboration, and I think at this point it's just a matter of whether or not we want to continue it based on what's transpiring each and every year.
Any other public comment? Again, we're not going to take action on this item, and maybe Supervisor McCormick made a good point. We should try to solicit some feedback from the public before providing direction one way or another in the next couple of weeks. If we could do that, I think that would be appropriate. Mr. Packer, would you like to provide comment?
John Packer, 5723 Kenwood Ave. I'll echo Mr. Lindsay's statement. Dr. Kashiba, great job. You guys do what you can do, but there's a certain segment of society that you can't control and you never will, and you know it. But can we, do something differently? One question, I guess, is you say there's a deadline to get the down payment or whatever. You're going to have comment, I'm sure, after this meeting. If we did that, can we get it back? If you decide down the road, that's just a question I'm putting out there. Can we reserve it, but down the road, if it's decided that, no, we're not going to do this, would that money be refundable back to the township? That's question number one. Just comment number two along the lines of Director Kashiba. I believe that, and correct me if I'm wrong, the event started at 5 p.m., somewhere in that vicinity. So do we not have such a long duration of people gathering? I believe many years ago the fireworks display was just in the evening, and so you gathered for an hour or whatever it was. I know people are going to get there with their lawn chairs and set up and do whatever, but with the shortening of the time frame that you have to deal with, that you have to have your officers, the EMS has to be there, would that help? Would that alleviate some of your responses? I don't know. And again, I know part of the discussion was the moving. Is that in the works? Is that in the thought process? And outside of George Park, is there even another venue that would be more conducive or more easily controllable or more easily controllable than what you've been dealing with?
Thank you, Mr. Packer. Yeah, we'll have to take a look at the specific language of the contract to determine whether or not you can recoup that deposit, but based on the language that I'm seeing, I don't believe that's possible. I think they have the right to cancel the contract, but not the township. Okay. Any other public comment on the fireworks? Any other supervisor comment on the fireworks? Okay.
No.
All right, moving on to announcements. Are there any announcements from the board?
I would like to make an announcement. The board had an opportunity to go over to Coles Park to look at the various renovation that was going on over at Coles Park. There is some ADA work going on in the various sections of the park. The basketball court is going to be raised about 2 feet to make it ADA accessible, and the dog park is also going to be improved by, I believe, just going based on memory, putting in water stations for our furry friends. I would like to publicly acknowledge the wonderful job that Ms. Scott has done in terms of the work of getting Cole Park, and I also believe Centennial Park renovation moved along. She's done a great job, and I want to publicly express our gratitude and appreciation for all the hard work that she does.
Thank you.
Yep, just a reminder, next week, 5:30, Public Works budget meeting as well for public to attend.
Thank you, Supervisor Najim and Supervisor Thompson. And our next business meeting is immediately following at 7 p.m. Anything else? May I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Meeting adjourned.